episode of A Wider Lens, where we look at current events from multiple perspectives to see if we can synthesize them in such a way that leads to less tribalism and more understanding. So let's get started. So as usual, we're going to be using the spiral dynamics model to see if we can understand what's happening in the current political climate in America. And the spiral dynamics model is such a wonderful way, in my opinion, of exploring that. It's an evolutionary lens of looking at humans and how they move through different stages of development. If you're not familiar with this, I'll post a video below in the comments where you can find out more about it. But just to say briefly that when human beings are in these different stages of development, we have very different value systems. We see the world in very different ways. And we really are essentially in different worlds with that. So it's very useful in understanding this, because when we understand it, so many of the people who support different political figures, they also resonate with the same value set system. So we don't have to necessarily agree with it, but when we understand it, it naturally reduces the tribalism and the sense of us versus them. So today we're going to explore Donald Trump and his reasons behind deciding not to do the second debate when the commission decided he could only do it virtually. So we're going to look at this through different lenses. And so today we're going to be looking at particularly through this red lens of development, which is where Donald Trump is so often coming from. And then the modern lens, the rational lens of orange, which is where so many people are criticizing him and don't seem to understand his reasons why he's decided not to do it. So let's start with this modern orange rational lens, this stage of development. When we're looking through this stage of development, which is so often the way CNN and MSNBC and so many of these other mainstream news networks, they're looking and they're speaking through this way of being. And what they're seeing is, from their perspective, they're seeing that Donald Trump has missed an opportunity. They're seeing that from a rational perspective, he's 10 to 12 points down in most of the Real Clear Politics averages in the last few weeks. He's really not doing great, it seems, from most of the polls in the elections. And for him to throw away this opportunity is really a big mistake. So that's how they're seeing it. They're seeing it as a missed opportunity from his perspective. But now let's look at it from Donald Trump's perspective. If Donald Trump is indeed in this red stage of development, which I really think he is most of the time, when we're coming from this red stage of development, we really see the world in a very different way. When we're in this red stage, it's all about projecting strength. It's about dominance. It's about a survival of the fittest attitude. And for Donald Trump, his main asset in debating is his physical presence. I think Donald Trump is 6'4". Can you imagine being on a debate stage with somebody that speaks the way that Donald Trump does, and he's 6'4" and he's looming over you? That's going to be very intimidating. For anyone who's familiar with the Enneagram model too, I think Donald Trump is an 8 on it. He really is a body type. He loves a good fight, as anybody can see on Twitter. He feeds off it. His sense of identity is created from it. So from this stage of development, this red stage, when we're looking at the spiral dynamics model, Donald Trump is really, his asset here is his strength. He's looking at the world through either dominating or being dominated. That's what's really important to him here. And that's how he's seeing this debate, I think. It's interesting to recall in the 2016 election cycle, where Donald Trump debated Hillary Clinton 3 different times, that Hillary Clinton spoke about being on stage with Donald Trump. Her experience was that he made my skin crawl. That was one of the quotes she said. Let me just read you something else that she said in a 2017 interview. Clinton said during the debate she decided against telling Trump, "Back up, you creep, get away from me." And in order to keep her composure, she grabbed the microphone extra hard. So even for somebody like Hillary Clinton or not, even for someone as seasoned a debater as her, she was incredibly intimidated by him. You might remember the photographs where Donald Trump is looming over her as she's giving the answers. And one of the perspectives the mainstream media was giving at the time was that Donald Trump is being a sexist. Donald Trump is being a male chauvinist. And I really don't think that was the main reason for it whatsoever. I think Donald Trump, he's used to using his physical presence to dominate the situation so that he can dominate the conversation and the way it goes. So I think that's what he was doing again in that debate. And again, with this debate that was going to be upcoming, for him not to be able to be there with his physical presence is a massive deficit to him, a massive blow to him. So I think that's one of the main reasons he decided not to do it. So given all that we've been speaking about that, and Donald Trump looking through that red phase of development, that survival of the fittest, around dominant, around body-centeredness, much more so than that modern stage of development, which is more centered in the head. Let's listen to Donald Trump now directly with his own words and see if we can understand and decode a little bit of what he's saying through that lens.
I beat him in the first debate. At the second debate, we have a never Trumper as a host, but that's okay because I beat him in the second debate also. And but I'm not going to do a virtual debate.
So Mr. President, you're not going to do it because the CPD, the Commission on Presidential Debates, announcing this morning that the second presidential debate will be virtual. You say you're not going to participate?
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate. That's not what debate.
So he's not going to waste his time on a virtual debate. That's not what debating is all about. So of course, from his perspective, it really is a waste of time for all of the reasons that we've said. He doesn't get to exert his physical dominance there.
Debating's all about you sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous.
So again, sitting behind a computer, it's ridiculous. There's no physical presence there whatsoever for him to assert himself in that way. So of course, if they're able to cut off the microphone from him at any particular time there, that's a massive difference for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a non-conformist. That's what so much of his base loves about him. He doesn't conform to things. And if he's tied in a box like that in a debate where they can cut him off, where people are only given 2-minute answers, that's a disaster for him. And that's not a battlefield he's going to win on.
And then they cut you off whenever they want. I have a host who I always thought was a nice guy, but I see he's a never Trumper. Came out that he's a never Trumper. We do have some of them, Maria, believe it or not, because they don't like to win.
That's really funny. Again, they don't like to win. Again, I think Donald Trump is actually being quite honest there. He's really seeing it through that stage of red, that tribal stage. That's his center of gravity. And he really can understand why these people aren't going along with him. His only explanation deep down inside of him is they obviously don't like to win. It's about winning and losing. It's not about ethics to him. That comes later in development, and Donald Trump doesn't have that online like most of us do in a certain way there. He really is coming at it from a sense, but it's either about winning or losing, and that's how he's looking at it. If somebody's not supporting him, he's saying, well, they obviously don't want to win.
I'm not doing a virtual debate. They didn't even tell us about the debate, right?
So you just learned this morning?
Yeah, we learned it the same way you learned it. They called up 2 minutes ago, and it was announced. And they're trying to protect Biden. Everybody is. They're trying, like that NBC disaster where he went on this show with Lester Holt. It was meant for a child. It wasn't meant for a grown.
There probably is a lot of truth to that as well, that a lot of the liberal pundits are actually trying to protect Biden, and his cognitive ability seems to be a bit down. So there's some truth to that. I don't think that attack style has been landing for Trump in a lot of when they poll. It is not showing that it's working for him.
Person. He gets up and he says, we're not fracking. We're not fracking. He was fracking for 6 months. He was fracking. He was raising his very thin hand, and he was fracking.
So I've heard many liberal commentators speak about this line saying Donald Trump has gone crazy when he says raising his very thin hand. So again, if we're coming back to Trump is in such a body-centered mode of being that when he sees somebody with a thin hand, he sees his sense of dominance, and he's projecting that. That's the world he's living in. So he's trying to say to the American people there, Joe Biden is frail. Look at his physicality. It's not strong like me. I'm much more vital. Remember in the debates where, in the RNC debates where Marco Rubio said something about Trump's dick, and there was like so much energy around that, and it was so controversial. But that's the world Donald Trump is living in, where his physicality is so important to him. I think there was an article in Vanity Fair in around 1989 or so. I remember hearing this through the 2016 election cycle, where Donald Trump, they wrote an article about Donald Trump in Vanity Fair, and they said something mockingly about the size of his hands. And Donald Trump was so offended by this that he took the magazine, he put his hand down and he stenciled the size of his hand onto it and posted it back to the editor and said, look, here's the size of my hands. That will show you the mentality, how much he's coming from that sense of physicality, how important it is to him. That's where he's coming from. He sees the world again through that sense of physical dominance.
and now all of a sudden he's not fracking. Well, tell the Pennsylvania people that you're going, it's ridiculous. He said he's not fracking. That's all he said. And then all of a sudden he goes to a fracking mode. And how about her? She committed her life to it.
I don't think Donald Trump is explaining that very well. I think he's quite stressed, and I don't think he's explaining that even to his base there particularly. I think he's trying to dumb it down, saying Joe Biden is fracking, or he's not fracking, in the sense that he's supporting fracking. And Joe Biden has flip-flopped on that. And it's pretty easy to see that Kamala Harris has done even more so. That's a fair point, but I don't think he's expressing that as clearly as he could there.
And all of a sudden she's a fracker. She's a big fracker. They're going to stop fracking the minute they get into office. They're lying to everybody. They're lying about so many different things. But you have to confront people. You can't do it.
I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about what you heard.
So hopefully that gives some insight into where Donald Trump is coming from and he's thinking. And as I said, the more we can understand this, the more we can understand when people are coming from different stages of development than we are, and we're able to understand it, the tribalism between us and those people who support those other people naturally starts to diminish. So this has been A Wider Lens. See you next time.